Hey YouTubers, this is Dave with Surface Geeks, joined tonight by Richard Hay and Mr. Brian Friedlander. We'll get to them real quick. I just want to let you know this is a long-form discussion about the Windows 10 event. We're going to be talking about Surface Book. We're going to be talking about Surface Pro 4, the new dock, the new keyboards, Windows Phone. We're going to be talking about Windows 10 and all of that was put out by the Microsoft folks on October the 6th. Now, what this is an audio podcast. This is going to be a discussion. There's not a review. We do not have devices to show you. This is a discussion that's recorded on video for the purposes of transmitting it to an audio podcast. I just want to let you know that up front so you're not sad after an hour and a half and I have not shown you the new Surface Book because I don't have it yet. Maybe. I don't know. So we got that out of the way. Now, live chat. How do we sound? Type them.
How you doing, Dave?
Check.
All right, just got your link to OneDrive.
And I just threw that link in there, so it's in there.
Brian, what are you using to talk with me on?
A Logitech USB microphone.
Okay. No, I mean, what is your camera?
I'm using the Surface Pro 3 camera.
Okay. It's good light. It's really close to your face, but it's good
close.
light.
I can move back a little bit.
I don't want to break your personal bubble, see? You're using a Surface product, so... And we're not on audio yet, but that's Dr. Friedlander, right?
You can say Brian, that's fine. Don't. If you just want to introduce me and then go from there, that's fine. That's not a quick note. Okay, see, quick notes. What section do you have?
Look for SG96 at the bottom.
Okay.
I need a new camera.
Now, wow. Okay, and we're not going to start it for a little bit. So. I find my other account and invite it to the Hangout, which is going to ring like crazy. Hopefully there's nothing in the bedroom that's going to ring.
I'm not happy with that camera. It doesn't want to focus.
All right, test.
Yes, that's
okay.
me right there. That's me right there in caricature.
Awesome. Oh,
Dude, I got back to my room at like 1:30 last night or this morning after I left the party because I had to catch the Long Island Railroad out to Jamaica and then the air train and then shuttle. And it wasn't so bad. I slept until 7:30 and then got up and sorted all my stuff out and had breakfast and then did some work. But
yeah, it was a long long
day yesterday.
It was.
Well, I would have liked to have gone to your event, but I will not tell you about my Surface 3 event because it was quite posh, I must admit. As Brian pretty well knows, you just didn't come to the hotel because you're local.
That's right.
But that is not fair. You've been to both. That's 2 in 1 year.
But no hotel, man.
Yeah.
They paid for Uber for me. What could I tell you?
That's right. And the limo from the JFK to the W was pretty nice.
I'm sure it was.
Okay, I'm gonna drop Messenger and put OneNote over here. So sorry about that, YouTubers. We're gonna start right here. Live chat. We're gonna go right here. Make sure if you have Jim, I sent you a messenger. Jim Collison.
Oh, is Jim coming in on this too?
Jim, do you want to join?
I see him in the chat room. Oh, this is really irritating.
So am I the only one that's not using lower thirds?
I guess.
Toolbox?
Brian's not.
It's fine. Toolbox. Lower thirds. I've got SG. Just hit on.
Get that.
Yeah.
Booyah!
I'm really not pleased with this camera at all.
Booyah!
It's really fuzzy.
You need the Logitech. You're in a hotel room.
Who?
Okay, no, Jim is.
Oh. Terrible bandwidth. Dude, the bandwidth at the Sheraton JFK was superb.
That's how you say that.
Superb.
Yep. It was not great at the event, though, I could tell
Yeah,
you.
I heard.
Oh,
Rod told me, and it
oh,
worked out well that I ended up staying in the room to watch it and do the social media stuff because
it
he was
was,
stuck. Couldn't do
yeah,
much at all.
I was trying to push out, pictures and stuff, and it was just horrible. It was just really.
Well, I got to the event last night, and it was horrible. Just the reception. I jumped on the Wi-Fi, and it worked a lot better.
Yeah.
But I don't think many people knew about the Wi-Fi.
All right, here we go. Sorry, YouTubers. We're going right now. YouTubers, if you would like to watch, this is an audio podcast. I mean, if you would like to chat with us, head over to surfacegeeks.net/live. There's a free chat room in there, and you can chat. We have got a moderator in there. His name is Jim C. He's going to be watching the chat. He's going to be feeding questions to us. These two gentlemen that are talking with me tonight, they were at the Windows 10 event. We're going to bend their ear on what they saw and all kinds of good stuff. So we're going to start right now. This is the Surface Geeks Podcast, episode number 96, recorded on October the 7th, 2015. Welcome back to the Surface Geeks Podcast. I'm your host, David McCabe. I've got a big show for you tonight. I'm joined by Mr. Richard Hay. How you doing tonight, Rich? And he hit mute, so we're going to go over to Brian Friedlander. How you doing tonight, Brian?
How you doing, Dave? I'm doing good. A little tired from the day's events yesterday, but it was just a great day. It really was.
That's great. Assistive Tech on Twitter, and you're a doctor, you're an educator, you've got all that going for you, and best of all, you're a Surface MVP.
I'm a Surface MVP. That's right.
All right, so we'll talk more with you tonight about that event, and back to the Master Chief, Mr. Windows Observer himself, Richard Hay.
All right, I just changed my microphone over, so if the chat room can verify, I sound a little bit better now.
That is completely better. You were on your webcam.
Oh yeah, I was on the microphone on the webcam. Okay,
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, that's Jim. He is our producer. He's in the chat room. He is watching over everybody. He keeps us all in line. That Jim Collison. He is traveling tonight, or otherwise he would be a Surface Geek, and because this is a big event, guys. We've got October 6th, Microsoft had what I consider the biggest event that I've ever seen from this company, and we will talk about that in depth. Now, I'm going to let you know that we're going to be talking about a few things that I want to talk about, and not the whole thing. So don't forget that we are a member of the Geeks Network, thegeeksnetwork.com. Please check out that site for more podcasts and forums just like this one. We've gone over Brian. We've gone over Richard. We also have a sponsor for tonight's show. I'm just going to tell you about that real quick right here. 10 seconds. If you are going to make a Microsoft purchase, please drop by my site first. How about you go to surfacegeeks.net/surface. If you just want to remember that, tell your friends, tell your family members, surfacegeeks.net/surface. That will send you straight to store.microsoft.com. It'll send you straight to the store. I'll get the pennies kicked back to me on all of your purchases, and I would appreciate that. That helps me pay for the bills and pay for hosting and all that kind of good stuff. You know, it's also a good time for me, guys. I don't want to beleaguer the point, but we've had a lot of blowback against ads and advertising and stuff like that. But don't forget, if you're running an ad blocker, don't forget the little guys. They suffer from those ad blockers, like my site, like Richard's site, Jim Collison's site. If you're running an ad blocker, you need to whitelist your friendly sites, because we don't track you. We don't care where you go after you leave our site. We just want you to, put your pennies in our jar when you shop at Amazon and Newegg and places like that. You have to whitelist us. Otherwise, they do block those JavaScripts that we run on our site. Just little bitty snippets of JavaScript that we run in order to pick up the clicks. That's all we do. Here's how it works. If I type Amazon.com on a web page, I have a JavaScript that will put in my commission link on that. So I don't have to remember to put all those commission links all over my site. That JavaScript does it for me. So we appreciate that. That's it. No more advertising. Okay. Now, the cool thing is, You guys were at the event. You were in New York City at what I said earlier, I think, was the biggest Microsoft event, not only of 2015, easily the biggest Microsoft event of 2015, but I think it's the biggest keynote and the biggest product launch that this company's ever done. I mean, that's big, because we're going all the way back to the Windows 95 era and competing against the Rolling Stones. But this one was big. Richard Hay, I know you've been there for all of them. I know that you've been in this game for a long time. How did you feel about this event in particular? I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I was in New York 3 years ago for the 8 launch. I was in New York 3 years before that for the 7 launch. I didn't make it to the 10. Now, I wasn't physically in the space during the presentations yesterday morning. I was actually doing it. We split up. Rod went to the event. I stayed in my room so we could do social media live blog. And I was on the live stream. But I got to tell you, I freaked my mate out at one point because I started laughing so hysterically when the Superman move happened. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Which one was it? Go ahead and tell us.
For the Surface Book. When he had done the Surface Book, right? So he did that one more thing. My first brain thought was maybe Surface Phone. And then he kind of alluded to the laptop, and he said, this is Surface Book. And he went through the spiel, right? Never separated the screen from it or anything like that. And then he kind of told the crowd, okay, watch this video one more time. Mm-hmm. And then the redo of the video was a different one that had all the kind of labels on it. And it arrived at that point in the video where it stopped before, but then it continued. And if you've ever seen Superman Man of Steel, right, where he walks out of the ice cave in his brand new Superman outfit for the first time, and he's soaking in the sun, and he walks out and puts his fist in the ground. You know how it kind of vibrates and things start to move? Well, it did that same thing in the video, and then it lifted up. You know, the screen came away, what they're calling the clipboard. Right. Came away, and I just started laughing hysterically in my room. I think the maids in the hallway must have thought I was nuts, because and it wasn't a hysterical kind of laughing at. It was like, dude, you just blew it away. I mean, right. Totally. And I know we talked about this yesterday, Brian, when we saw each other. Yes. I know the reaction in the room was massive. I mean, you guys stood up and started clapping. I mean, there was huge. Yep. It was an interesting crowd in there, actually. There was a lot more reaction to things in yesterday's keynote than I'd ever heard at any previous event, especially a room full of tech press.
Well, we'll give you the scoop on that, because I know the scoop on that, because I saw it in the video. When I can tell who's sitting where, I know what was going on. And I will get to that, Brian, and I know you know what I'm alluding to, and I will lead you to that.
Okay.
But here is the reason that I was in this same chair right here, watching my monitor on my browser, and I've got, monitors over here, and I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes and doing my stuff and chatting with people and tweeting. I was tweeting like a madman. And here is the number one reason that I didn't go to that event, that they didn't come to me and say, Dave, we need you at this event. Because when that clipboard popped out of that device, I screamed like a little girl, and I wet my pants. So that would have not...
It was a great moment. It really was. And I wasn't in the room, and it was a great moment.
Oh, I got chills right now thinking about how they pulled that
off. I had goosebumps sitting in my room.
And that's why I was not there.
And it was pretty incredible. I mean, there was really no leaks anywhere.
None. Just like the first Surface.
Yeah, and a matter of fact, last night I spoke to one of the engineers, and he said they had set it up that even on the production line, it was the way they set it up, no one knew what they were manufacturing and how it worked. I mean, wow. That's how quiet they kept it. Yeah.
Okay, so
that's pretty impressive.
We're just talking about event. We have not even gotten into the gear. I think talking about the event is important, but let me give you the scoop.
Okay.
I saw you guys up front, Brian Friedlander.
Yes.
The MVPs, not the press, but the MVPs, because we need to kind of manipulate that audience. We need some fans. We need some clapping, and we need, because that will roll back into the crowd. That will loosen up the crowd just a little bit.
Well, I'll give you a little behind the scenes. We got to the Moynihan station I got there probably around 7:30 or so, and we started to line up, and then we were taken up to the second floor in an elevator in an area was set up with some breakfast for us, and then probably within 20 minutes we had folks like Terry Myerson, Panos Panay talking to us and kind of giving us the lay of the land and what was going to happen. And I don't know anything in particular, but I think that Microsoft found it very disconcerting when they announced the Surface Pro 3 and all the media up front with the Apple MacBook Airs. And I think this was to counter that because we basically had a lot of evangelists, a lot of supporters, a lot of folks that have been using their technology. I mean, you saw I was in the first row. I mean, I was pinching myself. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it when I was escorted to the front row. And I think they set that up so that all the evangelists, supporters, super fans were up front and close to get that energy. Because Pano said, show me the love, give me the energy when I'm up there. And I think everyone responded. And, of course, the products were just unbelievable.
You wouldn't have had to push very hard considering the stuff he was announcing.
No,
absolutely. And the press always says, they're there to do their job. They're not there to applaud or, give immediate feedback. So
right.
But it's nice to interject some energy into the room, and all these big companies do it. But I wanted to kind of just give you a nod. That, I mean, you were there. You were front and center. So that was really cool.
Yes.
And again, the event was it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal event. So like I said, I'm going to take you guys through a couple of products. I am not going to hit on all of them. This is not Xbox Geeks. Honestly, this is not Windows Phone Geeks, but we're going to hit Windows Phone really easily. We're going to hit the band because I'm excited about the band. We're going to talk mostly about the two, a couple of tablets and a couple of keyboards and a dock. So let me start you with just Windows 10 real quick. Usually these type of events start out like this. Here's how we did last year. Here's how we're doing right now. Here's how we're doing with our OS. And it was prime time for Microsoft to give us some of that about Windows 10. And fortunately, from the last time that they gave us a big number, it was even bigger, Richard.
Yeah, no, the last official number we had was just about a month since the release of Windows 10. They said 75 million, right? And I think that number was like 5 million enterprise levels. But anyway, so Terry Myerson, one of the first things he mentioned yesterday in the event was the momentum behind Windows 10. 110 million devices, so that we're looking at 70 days. Yesterday was the 70th day since the release. 8 million business users are running Windows 10 on machines. He mentioned that they have their managed business customers. Over half of them are testing Windows 10. You can't go back to Windows 8 and have that same result. People just weren't going to 8. 120 years worth of gameplay streaming from Xbox Ones to Windows 10. 650 billion web pages being viewed. 1 billion questions asked of Cortana. Over 1.25 billion visits to the Windows Store. I did talk to a developer at the event last night. He's kind of got a niche app about art and doing graphics. He's not seeing the traffic to his app, but that's just one example. Increased usage. For example, they can tell that people are using the Netflix app more than they're using Netflix.com. To use this. So that was a kind of a neat thing. Now, I ran the numbers between the 75 million devices and the 110 million devices, and I kind of averaged them out over 70 days. Back at the 75 million point, so that's about a month in, they were averaging, I think it was 2.6 million installations a day, or 2.5 million installations a day that first month. Now, if you take the 110 that he told us yesterday, which is probably a couple, 3 days old, but I still use 70 days, that number's dropped down to 1.6 if you average it from the release of Windows 10. So it's dropped and lost momentum, but it was never going to maintain that crazy madhouse rush of the first month. So they said 1 billion devices on Windows 10 in 2 to 3 years, right? So if you use the 2-year point, they've got to have an average of 1.4 million installs over 2 years to get there. If you go out to 3, they need 913,000. So are they behind schedule? No. In fact, they're ahead of schedule. So the numbers are good. I think I was talking to somebody else last night about it, and at the fan event, and he made a good point. We're going to see a big rush of upgraders, I think, in the new year, and probably right before July 2016, before the free offer expires. So that's probably it's probably gonna maintain a pretty steady pace, maybe drop a little, but come next year in the spring, you're gonna see a spike right before 29 July 16 when it expires.
Right, and honestly,
those are good numbers. They really are.
We're all gonna be sick of hearing it because we're all gonna be saying, "Hey, you better hurry. You got 2 months. You got 1 month. You got okay."
Yeah, it's gonna be that way, but all in all, they're ahead of their schedule to get to the goal that they want.
Unreal numbers. I just did another Windows 10 install tonight during dinner. I just let it run, and I put it on a little Asus, little X205, the little bitty laptop for my kids to do schoolwork. So I'm putting Windows 10 on that for them. So great great OS for laptops just like that. Okay, Windows 10 done. Last week, I either tweeted somewhere or I wrote somewhere in one of the forums, like the Surface Geeks forums, that I was kind of embarrassed that I was more excited about seeing a new version of the Band than I was a new version of the Surface, and it's almost a little true. I mean, granted, that was kind of blowing that point out a little bit, but genuine excitement about Band version 2, and that excitement was realized during this event. Brian, was there a plethora of Windows bands at this event? Could you see, were the guys wearing them, or did you see version 2, or tell me?
Definitely, you saw some Microsoft people having the Band too. There were lots of bands on the floor for people to touch and put on, and they do have two sizes. One size for, I guess, people have, I guess for women or those who have thinner wrists. I did put it. Yep, I did 3. Okay, I saw it 2, but they had them nicely displayed, and they had an area set off where you could, ride a bicycle, and also they added a lot of golfing features.
I tried the golf. I tried the golf with the Band. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was.
So that's cool. They had an area where you could definitely try that out. And
there was even one you could make your own mixed drink by pedaling and wear the Band to mix your drink.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching Panos run the blender, while he was bicycling.
Pedaling the bike.
Yes, bicycling. And they also they added additional sensor, a barometer. Sensor to add additional information.
Did they have anything to demo that, or?
No, you'd have to have elevation change, but it's intended to measure real-time elevation change as you're using it. So right now it will do elevation change, but it depends on the GPS. The V1 does. V1 depends on the GPS reading to tell you changed elevation. Mm-hmm. This is going to work with the barometer. So technically, if you were to wear this on an airplane, that barometer is going to measure altitude. Because back in the day, everybody used to have the watch that had the barometer on it. I used to have the Timex something or another, and I had a barometer that would tell me my altitude. And in an airplane, it would tell me I was at 8,000 feet, whatever the pressure was inside the plane. So that barometer...
Does the pressure not mess that up any?
I don't think so. The barometer is meant to measure pressure. That's right. And so because at altitude, pressure changes. Mm-hmm. So, and it's subtle at the lower altitudes. It's not as noticeable to us, but a barometer will pick up that change, so it will be more accurate at measuring elevation changes as you're using it for different exercises like running, biking, hiking, that type of stuff. People like that data. If I go climbing a hill, I like to know how high I went.
Right. So finally we got our curved screen. I need to ask you guys, if you guys played with this, Band version 1, I wore on the inside of my wrist because that was more comfortable for me. I could read it. I would put it on my left wrist, turn, look, and I could see the time. I could see my incoming notifications. V2, where am I wearing this thing? Is it still the same spot?
Most of them were wearing it inside that I saw, David.
Okay.
Brian. Most of the people I saw wearing it were wearing it inside.
Yeah, but it did feel more comfortable because of the roundedness than the
Yes.
first one. Definitely,
Yes.
definitely.
Because
Yeah.
I wore my V1 on the top. I wore
Ooh.
my V1 on the top of my wrist.
Okay.
And when I tried this thing out, I got to try it at the Rattle and Hum. There was a guy, he's just an IT pro. Check this out. And he was at the event or at some function or something, and somebody from the Xbox marketing team, who they do the products, that's part of their thing, handed him a band and said, "Here you go. Thanks for being an enthusiast."
Whoa.
I met him at the Rattle and Hum after I ran into you, Brian, heading
Wow.
to the Rattle and Hum. He was there,
Wow.
and
Nice.
I got to try it on. I got to play with it a little bit and put it in my hand. What they've done that is tremendous, because if you know with V1, the battery compartments are right below the screen. So you have a straight screen, then you got those thick battery compartments, no flexibility at all. In fact, that's one of the flaws.
It wears out, and
That
the
wears out quickly. Not just the surface rubs off, but the battery compartment starts to crack, because even to get it around your wrist, you've got to stretch it. And they say, don't do that. Well, you have to. Well, this one now, so you have the screen, then it's just band down to the bottom to the clasp, and the battery compartment, just one battery compartment, is setting on top of the inside clasp. And so when the clasp comes apart, the charging place is the clasp. That's where the contacts are, and it sets over top the entire clasp. So you know those cool 3D printed stands that guy was making for V1? Those won't work anymore.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you kind of knew that.
But it was that was so flexible from the screen down to the bottom of the thing. It was unreal compared to V1.
Yes.
Now the latch, guys, how did that work on the bottom? Is it intrusive? Am I going to bang that, or am I going to bang this screen around any?
I mean, I found it pretty easy to attach. It felt good. It felt secure. Yeah.
It's the same style of clasp that's on V1. The overall band is wider. I will say that. It's compared to V1, so even the screen is wider, the whole band thing is wider. But it's the same style of clasp, so it's got the two little things you push in. It's spring-loaded,
right? And
which I had a problem with on my first band, and I had to do a return. But they say they have fixed those types of issues. And there's no longer Brian, did you notice that the battery case is now a metallic surface and not that black covering like the V1?
Yes. Yeah, actually, Dave, I'm going to send you I took a picture last night. They had a nice. Let me see if I can send this. I'll send this to you. They had a nice platform with all bands with different colored screens.
Yeah, CB Geek in the chat room just talked about the future band OS allowing you to switch orientation of the screen, and the orientation of V2 is just like V1, so it slides to the left and right across the screen.
Okay.
So there's no up and down or anything like that.
Right. I'll just take this moment to tell you YouTubers, if you'd like to chat and interact with these two guys that were at the Windows 10 event, you can join me at surfacegeeks.net/live. There's a chat room in there, no password needed. You just put your nickname handle. We've got a moderator. Just hit Jim C. If you have any troubles, he's in the chat room watching everything we do. So I'm talking with Mr. Richard Hay. He's of the WindowsObserver.com, and you also write for the Win Super site. So
I do Super Site for Windows. Yeah.
Brian Friedlander. He's an educator, higher education in the New Jersey area, right there by Manhattan, and he's digging out a picture of the bands.
I'm actually gonna.
That's probably gonna just make me mad, because I wasn't there.
CB Geek just asked about charger connections as well, and I never got a look at a charger, so I saw the band in the clasp area where it goes, but I don't know if it's the same as V1. I doubt that a V1 charger, it's a very different configuration, so because that clasp is very flat with the 4 contacts on the end, and then the piece that goes into the bottom. You know how the current V1 has a slot? Right. This has the same style. And I did have the guy who was doing the golf demo did tell me, because remember a lot of people had issues with sizing, because especially if you were kind of one of those people that were at the low end or high end of a device, so you're in between, so maybe you're in between small, medium, or medium large, they have expanded the range for these things fit-wise. So if you were a high-end medium, if you were a high-end medium, low-end large, a medium probably would do you well. You'd not have to forsake it and go to a large. So that was one thing he made a point of last night.
Well, on the website, when you throw it in your cart, it asks you what size that you want, and I totally froze because I have sold mine.
Right.
And I sold that several months ago, so I'm hitting up the guy on Twitter that I sold it to. I'm like, do you remember what size my band was? And he's like, I think it's a medium, because I just didn't remember. Because I went to the actual Microsoft store the day that it was launched. You know,
Right.
we don't have to go over that helter-skelter day again. But I showed up the first minute they were open and bought the first one. And I was able to size it. But this time, I had to get their little sizing tool. I printed it out, and you can see how I tore it off. And it says to wrap it around your wrist, but it does not say to measure loosely. It doesn't say to measure tightly.
Right.
It just says if you are close to a larger size, like if you are small, getting real close to medium, it says
Go
bump
medium.
up to medium.
Yeah.
If you are medium, almost in between to a large, bump up to the large. So I was smack dab in the middle of medium.
So you're probably fine with medium.
I kept it on medium. So,
Yeah, I think that's a good call, especially in the middle. And like I said, if you're at the top end of one or the low end of the other, with this guy saying that there's a broader range that they fit, you might be okay staying with that, either one.
Well, I told you, I told everybody I'm going to talk about what we purchased at the end of the show, but everybody knows I bought a band, right? Everybody knows. Now, the thing is, it will not get to my house prior to leaving
For MVP Summit.
Seattle.
Same
So
thing here.
I am-
Same thing here.
I am torn to pieces about
Because
that.
the current availability for that is pushing 30 October now. When I went to the site and looked, it says available because it was 26, right?
Mine says ship by 30 October, which that will not be here in time unless they overnight it, which I don't think that they're going to do. But
Nah, they're not going to do that. They're going to try to have it on your doorstep whatever day they said.
right. And then when we get to Redmond and we go to the Microsoft store the first
They
time,
won't
which
have enough.
we always do, they'll only have 10, and those will have sold out, Friday prior.
Because all those things release on the 26th, and Microsoft's telling everybody on Twitter, pre-order. Don't depend upon stock in the stores.
Right. So I will not have a band on Summit. I'm just saying. I'm trying to convince my brain. Because remember last year, I came with a band, and everybody's like, wow, you got one? I'm like, yeah.
Got band. Yeah, last year they were really kind of,
I was at the store. I went and got one. How come you didn't go get one? And they're like, well, we didn't know. And I'm like, I'm just a crazy man that'll drop $200 on,
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a V1 for sale, by the way.
I sold my V1 several months ago in order to finance the purchase of this V2.
Yeah, no,
we should say this V2 has gone up $50. It is no longer
it's $249.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it's still a good value because if you look at where they're going with all the other products, Microsoft is choosing to no longer try to beat Fitbit and all the low end stuff. They want to provide quality premium devices, and they cost money. So I think they're happy with that. I think they're going to be fine with that.
Call me crazy, but don't tell Microsoft I would have paid $299. That's it. Nothing over.
It's a good device. I tell you what, the capabilities it has is unreal.
I loved mine. I loved it last year, even though I called it a shackle because it was a shackle.
Spentech says the price will have to come down, and somebody just went $249.
Yeah, they didn't
under
know
a
what the
rock
price.
Yesterday. Did they not watch the announcement?
Get out there and buy your band.
$249. So let's look at the range of devices that are out there, right? So you got Apple Watch and whatever it does for health stuff, but are there devices out there that are above that $250 range?
My co-host Jim Collison will tell you that he has a running watch, which is a Garmin, I believe. I don't know what it is. It's a very huge.
Those things are
device.
expensive watches.
Yes, because it has GPS built in. Yet, so does Band.
So does Band.
And he has kind of been waiting on Band 2 to come out. He knew he didn't want to get Band 1 because he had just invested in that running watch, and he likes it, but.
Yeah, Microsoft is no longer. They're not marketing this to Fitbit users.
No, these are premium products.
And they look premium, didn't it, Brian?
Oh, definitely.
The look of that thing was just beautiful. Compare it to V1, it just doesn't even compare.
A very sleek, high tech look.
One big change: Gorilla Glass. This one has Gorilla Glass, which V1
I
didn't.
beat the absolute heck
I did too.
out of my Band V1, and they promised me they were going to send a screen protector in the mail, and they never did. But I'm not gonna fault
Oh
them
yeah,
for
no,
that. Jim Collison in the chat says Garmin 220. He says it's $250. So
that's okay.
So SpinTech
but
is
that watch doesn't get alerts and doesn't remind you to go to your appointment or.
Yeah. So now, see, the guy's out in chat. SpinTech was at the event too. We're gonna have to get him on the podcast someday. But he was I think he's just now adding up exactly how much this is gonna cost him. Yes, we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
You could have dropped a lot of money yesterday.
Man.
Yeah.
I got one of those spam emails that said, "Hey, I got $1 million to give you." I was like, "Ooh, man, that's perfect timing.
I need this right now. I
need that $5 million."
SurfaceGeeks.net/Surface. That'll take you straight to the Microsoft Store. It will also help me finance my crazy purchases and will not cost you a dime. Okay, YouTube, once again, chat with us live, SurfaceGeeks.net. Click the live podcast button. You can chat with us, ask us questions. Okay, we're through the band. We're through Windows 10. We skipped Xbox. We're going to talk some Windows Phone.
Sorry, somebody's ready to sell their kidneys in the chat room to get their devices. Drink lots of water so they're healthy, okay?
If we have time, we will just barely highlight Windows Phone. But I will talk Windows Phone in a future episode because we do that. We love.
There's a lot to talk there about the new phones.
But we are Surface Geeks, so we're going to jump right into the event and go to Surface Pro 4 because they came out on stage and said, "This is why you're here. We know you want to talk about this. Let's talk Surface." And when they put that up on those 3 screens, not only was I screen capturing, but I was getting ready. I was a very happy camper.
Did you find it funny that Panos kind of acknowledged all the leaks during the live stream, during the event? He kind of acknowledged that, yeah, you guys hit that pretty good.
Yeah.
You hit all those things pretty good.
I think it's kind of cool when they do that because he knew in the back of his mind, I'm going to get you.
That they had no idea.
Yeah. I'm going to get you. And I remember a keynote years ago when the iPhone 4 came out, and Mr. Jobs said, stop me if you've heard this before. And the crowd rolled because we had already seen the phone. It slipped out in a bar or somewhere. So I think it's sly that they acknowledge that yeah, you got this one. But
the only question that was that there was a lot of talk whether it would include the Intel's new Skylake processor, and that was a big if, and as you see, they didn't go with it. But that was definitely something that was bantered about in the press and amongst analysts for many months.
Yeah. Well, I think we knew that there would be Skylake involved. I didn't quite know that Core M would come into play on Surface Pro 4. So
it's interesting they did that.
Having said that, we have a Surface Pro 4, and it's much improved, and they pretty much kept their word, Richard. This brand new Surface Pro will fit in your old dock. You can buy it.
Your current dock, yeah. They kept all the right connectors and everything. Yep. No, and even though it became thinner, even though they pushed the bezel out and increased the screen size to 12.3 inches from 12, it stays with the same footprint, which means just like they said last October, we will keep compatibility with everything you currently have. Mm-hmm. But then they released docks that's never going to be an issue again, right? The Surface Pro dock and they released one for the phone as well. But the new Surface Pro dock, which is compatible with Pro 3 or Pro 4, is never going to be worried about what size the device is because it's a brick that you plug everything in.
Very smart thing. They did take notice. I'm gonna take a little bit of credit for some of that because I remember when I had trouble with my i5, they're like, Dave, what are you using? And I was like, well, I'm using this. And I tried this dock, which was an external dock, and which worked really well. So I think that they took something like that and they improved it. So they've made it native to the platform, which is great. I don't have to worry about it because I was worried about it. I was worried about them saying, yeah, we know we said we're going to keep it the same size, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And actually, they didn't. They made it bigger in screen size. But we lost one thing on the front of that Surface
You
Pro
noticed that, right?
Yeah.
right off. I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of Twitter about it, but I noticed it right off. And at first, I was like, the artists are not going to miss it at all.
Not at
No,
all.
they never liked it
'Cause
anyway.
no matter how much Microsoft and us, enthusiast tech journalists are going to say, you're not going to hit the button. Don't worry about it. You're not going to hit the button. You're going to hit the button.
You're going to
Does
hit the button.
anybody know why it's not there?
Will it fit, Rich?
Does anybody know why it's not there and why it's not needed?
Tell me.
All right, so think about it. When did Surface Pro 3 come out? What was the OS of the day?
8.1.
8.1, right? Did 8.1 have a Windows key, a start button on the screen? It did not.
Did not.
Because on desktop there was no start button, and on the full screen start menu there's no start button. You follow me?
Hmm?
Yeah,
Right.
no, absolutely. I'm
Windows
with you.
10, Windows 10 now has a Windows flag key in the bottom left corner
Mm-hmm.
in all setups, even when you're in tablet mode. So there was no longer a need for a hardware key on the tablet itself
I
to
like-
go back and
I
forth
like
to
the
start
button.
screen.
I like the button.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like the button now. Tap the screen. Just tap
It
the screen
vibrates.
instead of tapping the
I
bezel.
like it because it vibrates. But
That's why.
honestly,
and it never
I
dawned on
hardly
me.
use it.
That's not my original thought. That was a discussion I had with a couple guys last night at the fan event. We were talking about that missing. We were looking at a Pro 4,
Mhm.
and they are the ones that made me think. They brought it up and said it's not needed anymore because 10 has the start button everywhere, whereas 8.1 when Pro 3 came out didn't. So it needed that.
Well, I'm in the crowd that I always have a keyboard on it, and I always know where my Windows key is. I don't even look. I just hit Windows key and I start typing. If I need the calculator, key CAL enter,
That's
and I'm
me,
there.
yeah.
I don't even look. So every once in a while, I would hit that hardware button if I needed to, and most of the time it was if something was screwing up, and I would
Right.
need to hit that hardware.
On the keyboard though, most of the time, right? Or you do it on the screen.
I would do it on the screen. If I was
Okay,
mad
'cause
at
it's-
it or I needed it to change and it was lagging
'Cause-
or doing something,
Yeah, and I usually turned off the button because I just found that it got in the way most of the time, So
right.
The Spectre's Windows hardware button's on the side in front of the volume rocker.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, it
I would
does.
find a way to hit that thing once a day. Throw it out the window. All right, so we did get our Surface Pro 4, and Rich, as you said, 0.3 inches.
They gained 0.3 inches, so kept the same footprint, but pushed it out and shrink the bezel, which we'd heard some rumors about something changing with the bezel.
Brian,
but
We
yeah,
are no
12.3
stranger to the
inches.
Surface Pro. Did it look sizably bigger? I mean, 0.3 is not much, but
No.
sometimes when you're in front of it,
It
that
was
can
in
make
the
all
diagonal
difference
as
in the
well,
world.
so
just a little, but not. It didn't look. It wasn't overpoweringly
Right.
big. Yeah.
I was.
And it felt good. It did feel good in your hands.
I was kind of
as
thinking
well.
that you were going to tell me it really felt bigger. Because sometimes that subtle change in a screen size the 0.3 makes like zero difference. But you put that in a phone, it's huge. That's a bigger
Yeah.
phone, 0.3.
that's true. Look at the difference between a 5.2 and a 5.7 phone.
It's
that's pretty
gargantuan.
big.
People won't
Yeah.
carry a 5.7. Yeah. Okay, so it didn't feel that much better. How about
Nah.
distribution, weight of the tablet?
Felt good. I think
Yeah, it
felt good.
maintained all that good feel, didn't it? I mean,
Yes.
it felt like the Pro 3. It felt like this, the Surface. That surface was there. That magnesium surface that you're used to. Feels really premium. It was all there for it.
All right,
The
Surface
new
Pro 3
keyboard's
coming
pretty
in
nice.
The keyboard is-
1.76.
The keyboard's very nice.
Yeah, the keyboard is nice. Yeah.
Major upgrade. They're selling 2 versions of it though, and what they did was basically they've pushed the keys apart. They're not stacked right on top of each other, so there's more space between them. The trackpad's now glass surface, and was it 40%? No, 40% bigger is not right, but it is bigger than the old type cover trackpad.
40%. He said that in the.
Did he say 40%? I thought that's the number that's sticking in my head. 40% to me seems huge, but that was a pretty small trackpad on those, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's also made of glass. It's made of glass, and it feels really nice.
Feels very nice.
And it's got a 5-point multi-touch.
Let's stop you there. Stop you there. Let's compare it to Surface Pro 3, because the jump from Surface 2, Pro 2, type keyboard, mousing surface was abysmal. Let's just admit it. It was horrible. You would use it when you had to. Otherwise, you had a mouse.
Right.
Surface Pro 3, you could literally drop the mouse. It was that good. Surface 3 shrunk it. You didn't want to use that, but it was okay to use. You still used a mouse. Surface Pro 4.
Big step. Big leap.
Big, huge step.
Big. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear, too.
Fingers just kind of glide over it. I mean, it's got a beautifully smooth, silky feel to it when your fingers are on it.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest question...
And Brian mentioned 5-finger multi-touch on that trackpad, too.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, people are going to
do all the
compare this to the MacBook. The Mac and Apple have literally the best touchpad on the face of the earth. I'll admit that. I've used a MacBook Air for some time. Any of you guys have a comparison feel to one of those devices that you can say on air?
No, last time I touched an Apple, I got acid burns and I stopped.
Okay. There we go.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
You know, we are the home of iPadProGeeks.com, don't you?
iPad Pro Geeks. I wouldn't doubt for a minute you have that domain registered.
I did, Richard. During that.
You're like me with the Observer domains. I have all the Observer domains: Xbox Observer, WinPhone Observer, Windows Observer, One Observer.
Oh, God, it's funny. But
during
you're
Apple keynote, I registered iPadProGeeks.com and I forwarded it to SurfaceGeeks.com and I tweeted it.
The other part too, there's the big jump in terms of the levels of pressure with the Surface Pro 4 and the pens. You know, you have 1024, I guess, levels of pressure. In addition to, they added another basically shortcut to Cortana by holding down the.
That's right.
Hold
and press. Hold. Yeah.
Which I guess it will probably be integrated, once they update 10.
Well, say it again, so everybody heard that.
Two things. There's a new stylus, and it has a magnet that holds pretty strongly to the left-hand side of your Surface Pro 4, and the shortcuts, the one click will open up OneNote, the 2 clicks will take a screenshot, but if you hold the eraser button down, then it starts up Cortana, and you can use
you can talk to it.
You can talk to it. Yeah. In addition, the cap is really an eraser, and when you actually erase, there is that. It feels like you have a rubber eraser on the surface.
Somebody was talking about that. There's some friction, right?
Yes,
you can actually. It doesn't just glide across like it's plastic on screen.
Right, and
I
tried that last night. And the other part too, it's also going to ship with 4 different nibs, depending upon what you intend to, use it with. So if you're an artist, they have, extra hard. They also have I think a felt pen, a soft tip. So that it comes with 4 tips that give you a different writing experience. So if you're just a note taker, you might want to put one in. If you're an artist, you want to put another, and those come in the box with the Surface Pro 4 pen, which you can use with the 3 as well. I asked that.
I was just thinking of that same thing. What about the former Surface Pen that everybody uses Pro 3? Will it work on Pro 4?
Yeah. I don't know that.
Yeah. I don't know that answer for sure. That's a good question because it's Bluetooth, right? It should be able to be paired. So, but I don't know if it's upwards. I know you can go backwards, but I'm not sure about forward.
We'll have to definitely check that out. That information will come out.
Yeah, they shared that the battery should last a year. That was their official line.
How long does the current pen battery last? It uses a little watch button battery, right?
Watch
I don't know.
Button and a Quad A.
Oh, so it uses 2. It uses the watch button and a Quad A.
Is pretty well in that pen. I've never, honestly, I don't use the pen.
I don't use the pen as much, so I mean it's It's got the original batteries that I put in when I got it.
Okay.
It's still going strong.
So they took the magnetic attachment from the dock. So the
No
old
more
Surface
pin
Pro
loops.
dock.
No more
Up on the
loops.
side, no more loops. Rest in peace.
It has a pretty. I mean, it adheres pretty well. I still don't know that. I still think there's a possibility you still might lose the pen somehow. I mean, you might, you bump against something, you don't realize it,
Knock it off.
it off or something. It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Yeah, the loop was horrible, but
I think that storage spot, the magnetics, is a convenience for when it's sitting on the desktop, easy place to stick it and keep it handy. But when you throw it in a bag, you're not going to leave it attached because it's just going to get knocked off in your bag. So you're going to take it off. So it's a convenience type of thing, and I think they got tired of Paul Thurrott writing about pin loops.
he got a little too much coverage on the pin loop. All right.
By the way, there was a picture yesterday tweeted out from the Rattle and Hum gathering. Did anybody notice what Mary Jo Foley had in front of her?
I did not see.
She had a Surface Book in front of her.
Did she really?
You could tell by the hinge. Yeah, I could tell by the hinge.
I saw that picture. I didn't.
I saw which one I'm talking about, right? There's Andrew Zimmerman. There's Mary Jo. There's Paul.
Really?
Let me see if I can find it on Twitter real quick, and I'll.
Sure, that wasn't photoshopped, huh?
I'm pretty confident it wasn't. Let me see if I can find.
Well, she is the original lappability tester, right?
Yes, that's
of
true.
Surface. So.
And I think.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think there was a
reviewer
workshop in New York today.
There was.
With
Today was the day.
And there were several people that were able to go there, and I'm not doubting for a minute they walked out with devices because when they come out in 3 weeks, they've got to get the reviews out, right? The hands-on.
Yeah, you got to get your reviews out. You're correct, if I can talk right. And that was today, the reviewers workshop, and I don't know what
I tried to get in there, but I did not succeed at all.
But yeah, there were folks still in New York today. I know Mary Jo, she lives there. But
okay, here's the picture. So I'm going to, if everybody knows me on Twitter, I'm WinOBS. I'm going to tweet that picture out. I just retweeted it to my timeline. If you look at the top image in there, you can tell when you zoom it in that she's got the book.
Did she
in front of her?
She's blocking. I almost reached out to my screen.
Yeah, you notice her arm is across the front there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she may or may not be trying to hide. Maybe it's just innocuous, but...
How
else and then Paul's not. Paul's on something else. I don't know what he's on. No, it looks... Oh, he's on the Spectre there. He's on the Spectre there.
You can see hinges on his.
Yeah, he's got the X360 in front of him. So it's just interesting. I thought it was interesting that picture was tweeted out and she already in her hand.
She runs an Acer, though.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think that's the Acer?
That may be that Acer.
I guess it's possible. When I pull up the picture and I pinch in, there's a light down at the bottom. I don't think there's a light on the book.
The Surface Book bezel is...
Oh, look at the top left of the keyboard. You see the dark lettering? I bet you that says Aspire.
The Surface Book bezel is black.
It was a cool story while it lasted.
Okay, you're busted.
I'm busted. It sure looked like it to me.
They should give her own Surface Book because, like I said,
I don't doubt for a minute she's going to get a Surface Book to review because she's the one that they know is very good. Now, she's not a touch person. I did see her share on Twitter to somebody that she would not buy one because she's not a touch user.
Yeah, she's always said that. Yeah. Okay.
She never really used a Surface either, right?
No.
I mean, she bought one. She bought one on her lap. When RT came out, she bought one of the first ones in Times Square and even got Panos to sign it. Or Steve Stanovsky, I can't remember who. But she was one of the first in the door, and she bought an RT.
So processors, Surface Pro 4, big surprise, no more Core i3, which I thought was honestly was the best Surface in the bunch.
You always liked your i3, didn't you?
Loved my i3, and now I need to get busy comparing the i3 to the Core M processor, which is a Skylake family of processor, but it is a Core M, and that's new.
Fanless device.
It is fanless, and then it goes up to Core i5 and then Core
i7.
i5, i7, yep.
So the M3 is fanless.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Should be. I mean, there's that Core M doesn't need a fan for cooling.
Yeah, they really didn't talk about that too much.
They
didn't
didn't
talk
get
at
into
all, as a
detail.
matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they do share different weights in the specs for the Core M version versus it's .04, but
Right,
still,
which
it's a
lends
little
to the
more
fact that
weight.
it doesn't have the cooling hardware in there, right?
Right.
Yeah, or the fan, or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, 1.69 pounds on Surface.
But what's the max the Core M can go as far as memory goes? Probably 4 gig, right? It probably goes 4 gig, or does it go 8? Let me see if I can pull it up just to check, because to me that's an interesting proposition. One, is there any reason to take a Core M to 8 gig for the type of use, right?
Well, it blurs the lines of their setting their SKUs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think so. Core M goes with 4 gigs, and then you step up to 256.
Yeah. With the
Core
i5.
5 with
4
8
gigs is the max.
Yeah. Now, if you go to customize, you can actually go to the store now and hit customize, but it still just gives you. It's not letting me go to customize. Okay. There were some that were. I thought there were some sold out.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
See,
not
there's
seeing
only
that
one
right now.
Core M option.
Yeah.
128 and the 4 gig of RAM.
Right.
Yep.
That starts at $899. The next step
Yep.
is Core i5, 256 gig of storage, 8 gigs of RAM. That is $1299. There is a big jump.
Now, for perspective, I have the HP Spectre X360, and that is a Core i5, 8 gig of RAM, 256 gig hard drive. The second one HP sent me for testing, and that's a pretty good set of power.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a pretty good configuration for me on the Spectre. It runs well, it's fast, it boots up fast, it's got all those features for fast boot and all that thing. That to me is a kind of sweet spot configuration, I think.
Yeah, these
'Cause
prices.
who
You want
needs
to
more
talk
than
about
8
the
gig of RAM?
Apple. You want to talk about the Apple tax. 8 gigs of RAM at $12.99, and then you want to. It's $200 more to get 8 more gigs of RAM.
On this one, yeah,
the same
that's the only
i5.
difference, right?
The same
storage
i5.
and 8 4. That's 4
I mean,
gig of RAM.
granted,
It's
you
8 gig
probably-
of RAM worth $200.
Most of us probably don't need 16 gigs of RAM,
No,
but I guarantee
I would
on
agree.
most of our desktops, if you have a desktop computer, you've upgraded that thing. It's
Mine's
8,
got 16
or
Mine's got 16, yeah.
24.
My main desktop's got 16, my other one's got 8, so.
So
But you're right, that's a pretty big jump, but for most people, I would say the 8 gig i5 would be a perfect configuration. Kind of a sweet spot.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At $12.99, it is, and
Performance-wise,
that's where I would have
bit.
been. That's where I would have been.
I just think you give up. Now the jump is $400, right? To go from the Core M3 to the i5.
$900
double
to
the storage, double the
$1,300.
memory. So it's a $400 jump, but I think the performance, the satisfaction with the performance of the Core i5 with 8 gig will be a huge difference. I don't feel hard drives, so you remember when the 32 gig Surface came out, everybody was freaking out that there was only like 18 gigabyte of space. But I've never had an issue with the storage size on Surface. But you know, I wonder what people fill up their hard drives with, but 256 is a good number. I think that's a kind of a great ballpark, and that performance out of the i5 8 gig I think is going to be great.
That was back when OneDrive had placeholders and actually worked.
Yeah,
yes.
Which they're promised again. I know that's a whole nother train.
Get into that. We won't get into that. Oh, that was derailing. I told you to, guys, don't let me get derailed.
Okay, Dave, don't derail. Keep moving forward.
Get off the tracks, baby.
But I had lunch with a couple of engineers, and a lot of us were talking about OneDrive and the placeholders, and so they heard us loud and clear.
Yeah, and I've gotten a similar feedback that is an issue they're aware of and they're working to address. Somebody in the room just asked about the i5 Surface Pro 4 having fans. I gotta assume it does with a Core i5. I don't think you can run a Core i5 without fans.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Definitely.
Even with water cooling.
Water cooling, yes.
Yeah.
Water cooling on your phone. Have we hit Surface Pro 4 enough? Let's take it back to the keyboard, because everybody out there that saw all these announcements is saying, yeah, but my Surface Pro 3, it's fine. I would agree with someone out there holding a Surface Pro 3 thinking, I really don't need to upgrade. This is not enough for me to
agree with you on that.
I would agree. I mean, as much as I love having the latest and greatest, I just don't see what that bump up would do, unless I was maybe a graphic artist and that 1024.
Oh, the enhanced
pressure,
Because I'm guessing that pin's not backwards compatible. I'm guessing the hardware is in the Pro 4 that supports that 1024 points.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So that's not going to be backwards compatible, whereas you could use a Surface Pro 3 pin on a 4. So there you go. I think that's good advice. I mean, if there's something compelling in it that you, quote-unquote, have been wanting, then it might be a good upgrade. But most people running at least an i5 Surface Pro 3 probably not going to notice a big bang for their bucks for the cost. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there might be a market out there for the Pro 3, sell them, apply that towards your upgrade. That might be one way for some people, but I'm just not sure that there's for me, this X360 is doing exactly what I need right now, So I would not move forward from it.
Upgrade for upgrade's sakes. Yeah. But Microsoft did throw the Surface Pro 3 user a bone. Now, Richard, you've been working with Windows Hello for months and months with some beta hardware, and now Surface Pro 3 owners can have that.
That's right. They announced one of the keyboards, the revised or a new. It's actually a new type cover. It's got a fingerprint reader built in right next to the trackpad, and so it's the same style of keyboard, same larger trackpad, glass top that we've been talking about for the Pro 4. And it sounds like these are interchangeable between the Pro 3 and Pro 4.
Yes.
Same connector and all that kind of stuff, so it's the same data connections and the whole bit. And when you look at the cutaway of the keyboard with the fingerprint reader feeds its input up underneath the trackpad to wherever it goes. So if somebody was on a Pro 3 and wants the cool Windows Hello piece, they could order one of those and they would be able to set up a fingerprint login. And then they would be able to use Windows Hello fingerprint reader to log into their Pro 3. So you get that little new Windows 10 feature, but on your current Pro 3. So and let me tell you, I've got the fingerprint readers here. I've got the Windows Hello camera, the Dev Kit camera from Intel. The fingerprint readers are pretty cool. You just swipe your finger and boom, you're logged in. So it's a nice, but I think. What was the price they said on that, Brian?
It was $159.
$159.
It is $159.99. I'm looking at it.
And
I will put that link.
$129 for the updated
for the other one
without the fingerprint. Yeah.
Which those are interchangeable.
Yes.
So, but there's no real reason to buy a fingerprint reading type cover for Pro 4 because Pro 4 has the Windows Hello cameras. So you can Windows Hello.
It also looked like they added another color to the range for the keyboard. I think it was like a greenish color or something.
They're calling it teal. It is a very greenish.
Well, blue. I live in the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let me look at that teal. It's really teal. I'm pulling it up.
Copy link. I will put that in the show notes for everybody.
Oh, there you go. So it's if you're on the Pro 3 and you want to get a little bit of the new, then that keyboard, that type cover keyboard, is going to give you a better typing experience. Panos talked about the upgrades they made to the keys, the stroke length. It's a little bit more spread out instead of right on top of each other, and you get a fingerprint reader. So that might be the way for a Pro 3 person to bump their experience up, but yet not spend
let's face
$1,200, $1,400.
YouTube listeners and audio listeners, this is almost an entire upgrade, and it's $129 because you can't take a laptop today and get a better feeling keyboard for it.
I'll tell you this.
They've done for Surface Pro 3.
This little device right here is a USB fingerprint reader.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got it in my laptop. Now I don't carry my laptop around with it, but you could do an upgrade, but on Pro 3 you can't do that unless you want something sticking out of the side.
Right.
So that keyboard cover with that fingerprint reader, I think, is a nice little upgrade for somebody who's on a Pro 3.
And Rich, how much did that cost? That little.
This one right here is $25.
Oh, 20. Okay.
So this little reader is $25.
Is that plug into USB?
It's a USB. Yep.
Okay.
Now this is obviously $160. It doesn't ship until October 26th. It only comes in black, but they're calling it
the fingerprint
Onyx.
reader.
Yeah, they're calling the other keyboard black, but they're calling it Onyx.
Onyx, okay.
So you can only get it in black, but it is the improved keyboard. It's got the spacious keys. It's got the new glass pad.
Yes.
So the new mousing surface is right there for your Surface Pro 3. I think it's.
So you do get an upgraded experience with that.
I was beside myself. I was like, this is ingenious. I thought this is great, because Microsoft has always, anytime they do anything, there's that huge crowd of backlash that says, yeah, but are you going to take upgrades, and can I trade this in, and I just bought mine and you're killing, and I'm like, they're throwing you a bone right here. This is great.
Yep.
If I still had a Surface Pro 3 and I thought about getting a new keyboard, I would jump on this in a heartbeat. I would jump on it in a heartbeat. We talked about the dock just a little bit, but I would like to look at the dock, because this is it's a fantastic little dock. If we want to go port by port, Rich, I know I'm trying to get to it in the store.
That's what I'm looking for now too, because
it's
the
real.
Price.
It's $200. Now this is what the original
$200. Okay, which is the same cost of what the Surface Pro 3 dock was, right?
That's correct.
I'm going to throw this in the chat room for everybody. This will also be in the show notes. This dock, now it's hard to find this in the pictures, but it does have that little Surface Pro 3 type connector, that little barrel connector with the power on it.
Yeah, but they're calling that Surface Connect now or something like that.
Yeah, Surface Connect, yes.
Yeah. Right. So that's how it's going to connect into your Surface to get all that transfer speed and get on the bus. Yeah.
And it supports the Surface Book, the Pro 4, and the Pro 3 as well.
Oh, there you go.
That's the miraculous part about this. We've got power.
Yes.
Gigabit Ethernet. External audio. 2 display ports out. 2 display ports out, meaning you do not have to buy the expensive DisplayPort monitor that does daisy chaining. In fact, you don't have to buy a DisplayPort monitor at all. You can go to Amazon, and for $8 you can get mini DisplayPort to HDMI, which a lot of us do, and because we can't afford those, I definitely can't afford a DisplayPort high-end monitor after I've bought all this stuff.
Didn't they say
what
that would drive?
Did you buy?
Didn't they say that new Surface Pro dock? In fact, they call it a Surface Pro dock because of the compatibility. But didn't they say that will drive 2 4K monitors?
It will. Yes.
Okay.
All the ports you need: 2 high-definition video ports, a gigabit Ethernet port, 4 high-speed USB 3 ports, and an audio output.
Very nice.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty compact. The one I saw at the event last night was probably the size of, I don't know, it's probably about 2 inches wide, maybe 4 inches long, maybe 5 inches long. But it's got the same color as the power adapters had.
Now I'm worried about that, because if you look at the Surface 3, you guys remember the Surface 3 here on the side where it has the USB connector.
Micro USB, yeah.
That power plug I thought was not as ingenious as it could have been.
I agree.
The one on the Pro 3.
The 3.
No, Surface 3. Surface 3. So I'm a little bit of OCD. So when I plug in the power and it tilts just a little bit, I'm the guy that walks up and taps it and straightens it up. And I will do that 5 times a day. Walk by, tap it, straighten it up.
The fit is not as good. It's not as good.
I'm thinking this dock is going to fit a little better because of that. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right on that.
Surface but you're 3. Holding a Surface 3.
This is Surface 3.
Right, but Surface 3 is not compatible with this dock, is it?
No, I know, but my point is, if you look at the pictures of this dock, the connector is a square.
Yeah,
connector
I saw the connector
on the side.
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that it's wide enough with the power and the bus that it's
Keeps it
going to
aligned. I got you.
keep flush. I'm not going to hit it. I'm not going to yank on it. Because, I mean, let's face it, it's going to be on a desk where a lot of action is happening, you know. I'm going to move it because this is not a stationary object anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to, with the old docks, you take your kickstand and you close it and you put it in the dock.
It almost looks like the blade for the external power that we used, you know, for the
Correct.
Surface Pro 3. It looks something more similar to that. Yeah.
Correct. And this is all speculation on my behalf because I've not touched it, I've not docked it, and not put it on my desk. But I just know what happens on my desk, and I don't have a whole lot of room in between me and this first monitor. So, and I'm going to have to corner that and then have the dock somehow. And I'm thinking this dock is going to sit probably on the base of my monitor somehow.
So it says it's about 5 inches by 2.36.
Yeah, so that's about right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dave, it's going to sit on your desk somewhere, and so you can easily access it. Somebody in the chat room just asked if that was the same dock they used with the phones, and it's not. There are two different docks. The Continuum dock, which they now call the Microsoft Display Dock, that's the name they used yesterday, is smaller square, whereas the Surface Pro dock is larger and longer. The Continuum dock, which Brian Roper held up on the screen and showed everybody, is a smaller dock. But that there was no price advertised for that I've seen so far for the Microsoft Display Dock is what they're calling it.
I don't know if you picked the dock up for the phone. It was fairly heavy. I was surprised.
Yeah, it's got a lot of internals in it.
A lot of weight to it. I mean, it's not gonna move too easily on a desk. I mean, it's
got some good thing.
Got some heft to it. Yeah.
They're showing the Surface dock, but they're not showing the Continuum dock.
I'm digging as much as possible. I'm in the new Lumia section, and I am not finding it.
So that was a question somebody asked. That was the one item that nobody heard a price on. So, but somebody showed the UK price, which was 164 pounds. That puts that up around $200,
right?
Give or take. That's expensive, I think, for the Continuum. It's a
I
smaller
see the
dock.
It is. It's definitely smaller than.
Much smaller,
yes.
Yeah.
Probably less than half the size of the Surface
I've got it
Pro
right
dock.
here. Coming soon. So I'll put this link in the chat room.
They do look alike, Alan. Alan in the chat room saying they look like they do. They're the same colors. All the ports are on one side, but they're just stacked up a little bit differently because of the size. So they do have that same look, though. The same look as the power brick of the Surface that we've seen on the Pro 3 and now the Pro 4. It's the same type of coloring. It's kind of a brownish color.
All right, somebody get some Cortana out. 230 grams.
230 grams?
Yeah. 230 grams. See, I grew up in America, so I only know pounds.
Rich, would you say it was about 2 inches square, somewhere around there? I mean,
that'd be my rough estimate.
Yeah.
64 millimeters by 25 millimeters.
That's half a pound.
Half a
0.5 pounds is how much that little dock weighs.
That's hefty.
That's a good little
size.
weight. Yep.
For its size. DisplayPort HDMI connector, DisplayPort over USB-C, USB 2 times USB 2, high current charging port, HDCP as content protection on there, so that's
so 64 millimeters with 2.5 inches, so that's pretty close.
Yeah, and Spintech makes a good point. You're plugging in, you're expecting this brick basically to power a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, and it just can't be a portal. It can't be a pass-through. This thing's got to have circuitry in there to manage that power and manage that connectivity, because otherwise, it'd be like buying yourself a USB dock that was just a pass-through. It just isn't going to carry
There's some fun stuff going on in there. So what do you think? $199?
I'm gonna. Well, if you take the English price and convert it, that's the same. But that's the same price they're asking for the Surface Pro dock. so I can't believe they're going to charge the same for Continuum that they would for Surface Pro. I guess it's feasible, though. I would expect it to be more around $150, I guess. To me, that would make more sense.
I would hope so. We'll see. We'll definitely talk Windows phones in
It'll
the
be
future.
interesting.
I'm your host, David McCabe, Surface MVP. I'm joined by Surface MVP, Mr. Brian Friedlander. Also joined by Superside
Windows
author,
Experience MVP.
Windows Experience MVP.
Yeah, that's what they call us these days.
And soon to be both joining me in Redmond, Washington, November
3 weeks.
2nd.
That's going to be an incredible week.
That's going to be a good week.
On the heels of all this.
On the heels
Oh,
of
I know.
this. On the heels of this. In the meantime,
Hey guys, I got to
between
tell
that-
you real quick though.
Go
What I know we're about to talk about book, I think, and shopping, but I got a chance to talk to Panos last night during the event,
Okay.
and I was over by the HoloLens area where they were
Right.
doing the HoloLens demos, and I was just kind of standing. He kind of walked. He was there, and so I approached him. I shook his hand and reminded him that I had asked him a question last year about how he felt about the NFL guys calling his Surface an iPad, and then he brought up that they did it again this year.
Oh,
But anyways,
absolutely they did.
I simply complimented him, and I said, you guys really rocked it today. You knocked it out of the park. And I said, and I talked about his passion, because something about Panos and his passion comes across just automatic. From the first time I see him do a presentation, which would be back in the RT days, right, when they announced RT. See, we knew RT existed, right, but before Windows 8 came out. But the Windows 8 launch was kind of the coming out party. So they had, a couple months earlier to the Windows 8 launch, they had revealed Surface, which nobody knew was coming. And that was the first time I'd ever seen him publicly. I think most any of us had ever seen publicly. And he doesn't read slides. He doesn't read crib notes. He flows with the information because he's passionate about what he does. And I made that comment to him. Do you know the first thing he said to me? It's my team. He pointed to the folks that are around him and said it's their work. It's not mine. And I said, look, I spent 30 years in the Navy. And, I understand leadership, and I understand passion, and I understand humility. I said, teams don't accomplish anything if their leader's not setting the tone, not setting the path. I said, dude, you're doing great work. Your team's doing great work. And he was very, very complimentary and thanked me. But I just thought it was great because, what was cool about that event last night. He was there. I think Terry Myerson was doing the Dell stuff, but Satya showed up and was walking around shaking people's hands. Yusuf Mehdi,
awesome.
They were these execs are all walking around shaking hands and thanking people, and it was just pretty cool to get that opportunity. Now, you Surface guys, I know you get to see Panos every year you go to Microsoft, but last year was the first time I got him in a session outside of anything else, so It was kind of neat to have 2 minutes to talk to him about that. Got to meet his wife, compliment him on their kids, because his kids were in one of the demo videos.
Yes.
Of Windows Hello.
Yeah, that is neat that he incorporates the things that are close to him and important with him. Speaking of the passion, I mean, I'm going to call it the best kept secret of 2015.
I agree.
Surface Book. Man, this came out of left field, and when he transitioned, you knew Surface Pro 4 banter was over. You knew it. Yeah. And he still had something in the tank, and I was just like, oh my God, what is this going to be? We really have a quote-unquote one more thing. I was excited. Yeah. That was really cool, and I'm showing my fanboyism, but and I'm one of their biggest critics, but I was literally excited at that point of the demonstration, and I'm gonna have to watch it back again. It's one thing that I can probably watch back several times,
and especially that transition, especially when he transitioned from the end of the Pro 4 stuff, and he kind of said, "Well, this would normally be where I walk off stage and say thank you." And then, so you knew right then he was begging everybody.
You hit a peak with Surface Pro, and then he brings you down. And it's almost like they kind of dim the lights and they bring you in. And his motions become less animated. His voice becomes calmer. And he says, we have something else for you. I was like, yeah, you know, a keynote.
My first thought
geek.
was Surface Phone. I thought Surface Phone. Talked to somebody else. They thought Surface Mini. So some of those, you know, old products.
My first thing was like, okay, it's another Surface. I thought that it was probably another Surface. Chat room, Jose Ortiz says, I told myself it would be cool if they showed a Surface laptop.
Yeah. It's interesting. Those discussions popped up for me with several people over the last few weeks about a second device, because the rumors were pretty rampant about a larger Surface. But I kept going, no, you know what? They told us they're not going to make the accessories incompatible. Right. You know, they promised us that. They've been very public about that. So the rumors of a larger Surface didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I mean Surface in the what we know to be Surface, right, before Surface Book. And so, but I've certainly had those kind of fairyland conversations with people. Said, you know, would Microsoft make another form factor? Would they be willing to step on toes and build one like they did with Surface? Because remember when Surface came out, man, everybody needled Microsoft hard because they were intruding on the OEM territory. But look what's happened over the last 3 to 4 years. The quality of the devices we're getting from OEMs, right? We're getting some really high quality stuff. And so there was a part of me that was like, are they really going to take it that next level, that next step, and be willing to, because they've done so much with their partners, right? They worked with HP on the 360, made a great device, the software, hardware all ties together. I was like, that's where they're going to go. They're going to keep working with partners. So I thought maybe if there was going to be a new device, it would be a partnership.
I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad that they didn't. There was a lot of banter about this whole Google and apps partnership.
Oh, yeah.
They buried the hatchet, and Microsoft knows better. If you thought that was going to happen, you were living a pipe dream, because that was never going to happen. And a few folks out there on Twitter said that as well too. So
yeah.
I was with you in that mindset of we can't step on our partners.
Yeah.
But Microsoft proved they can not only not step on their partners, but they can step over them and once again raise the bar on equipment production and creativity to the point that displays their software the best.
I mean, the innovation in this device is just
the
incredible.
Innovation. Absolutely.
I had a chance last night to speak to one of the engineers. He said it took them a year to develop that hinge on the Surface Book. A year.
And I don't know why, because Brian, you and I have spoke with Ralph and the engineering team and Beth Cheech, all these guys. We've talked to them, and I underestimate these guys. I underestimate the genius that comes out of these labs.
He was kind of, if you can see my hand, it's kind of hard, but he was explaining that the amount of friction that was needed at each juncture on that hinge.
For it to stay in place.
It stayed in place as it almost kind of rolls up, so it doesn't kind of just give you, give you this kind of motion. So it's kind of, the way they figured out how to do it. It took them a year to develop, which is just incredible, just absolutely.
Lance Ulanoff got to go upstairs and talk to Panos and the guy you just mentioned, the engineer, Ralph. And they showed him prototype stuff on. If you go to Mashable.com and look for this story, there are images of the prototypes of the hinge, and it's kind of like what we saw. The cutaway stuff that they had last night's nothing. The stuff they had up on the second floor is the cool stuff. It was when they built the hinges out of plastic, the devices out of plastic, and it's if you go find Lance Ulanoff's Twitter feed or find Mashable.com.
Put that in the chat room right now. I have that article.
There you go.
And
it's a really great article.
I don't want to rub it into you, but that's the kind of those are the kind of things that the MVPs get to play with on a personable level, which is really kind of fun and really what makes being a Surface MVP make you feel like a rock star, because you get to go through that process with them. Of course, it's after the fact, and what blows me away is they can have this knowledge with them. They're working on it. They were launching this Surface 3 with me in New York in March, and they're working on Surface
Book.
And those Sly Devils were asking us what we wanted. They're like, "What do you want? What do you think would be innovative? What do you?" And I felt, honestly, at some points around these guys, you can feel like the stupidest person in the room.
Yeah.
They're like,
smart people.
What would you want? And then I'm like, I could use a little bit bigger screen. And they're like, why do you want a bigger screen? You know, because they have the knowledge, right? And I swear to God, one of them asked me, "Do you really need that Windows key button?" You know, things
No
like
kidding.
that. I'm like, oh, you guys are too smart for your own good. But I remember asking for something a little bigger. I think I even asked for a laptop that I would
Well,
buy.
the 13-inch is a nice size. I really do think it is. You know, the Surface Book has that 13-inch screen, and I got to tell you, the moment I saw that screen, oh my gosh!
Let's talk about
that
it.
screen
Surface
is
Book,
unreal.
13.5-inch screen.
Pixel sense.
No, 13-inch, I think, Dave, isn't it?
13 and a half. I have the specs.
Oh, 13 and a half. Okay.
13 and a half, which the resolution bumps past Surface Pro 3 and Surface Pro 4 at 3,000 by 2,000 pixel resolution. I cannot wait to see that.
Oh,
Although
the screen is so sharp and beautiful, rich, deep colors.
You
Unreal.
guys think that Surface Pro 3 is hot looking. It is 216 ppi, and Surface Book and Surface Pro 4 is both 267. This screen is going to be gorgeous. Now, here's the thing, guys. I know you're getting sick of my fanboyism because I hate podcasts, especially Apple podcasts, that come on after their keynote and they basically say that Microsoft can do no wrong. We will get into the fact that we don't have the hardware, and when we get the hardware, we're going to go over it with you. But right now, we're still riding the high of the keynote, so you have to kind of bear with me. And I know we're going long. We're at 1 hour 20, and we're almost done. It is it's a gorgeous looking device. It's 1.6 pounds, but that is
the clipboard, just the screen. Yeah.
Poke, you owe me a Coke. We said clipboard, not
Yes.
keyboard. Okay?
Now,
not a keyboard. Weight with keyboard. Wait for it. 3.5 pounds.
3.5 pounds.
Twitter kind of lit up
Freaked
after
out.
the keynote because they're like, "How much is the weight? How much is the weight? How much is the weight?" Yeah, 3.5 pounds. It's going to be heavier. It is definitely going to be heavier. It's Windows 10, up to Core i7, and I'm going to get to the store here. We got to get to the store, and we got to.
Yeah, that's 1 terabyte, right? That's the one that has 1
As-
terabyte.
Dave, as you saw, Panos handed me the clipboard.
He did.
It was
I
like
tweeted it, Brian. I was like, a Surface MVP is the first human being ever.
Outside of Microsoft.
But it felt like a feather. It was so light. It was unbelievable.
You're used to
Unbelievable.
that.
Yeah.
You are
There's an
definitely
interesting thing about this, okay?
Mhm.
The Surface Book screen, what they're calling the clipboard,
Right.
is not meant to be an independent tablet. In fact, battery life is somewhere around 3 hours for the clipboard on its own.
That's
Not
right.
meant to go very far away from the base.
It
And in
is,
fact,
but-
once we all learn that the screen separates, the clipboard separates, we know it can be flipped around and folded over and become what they call a creative something or another.
But how about the
that's-
scenario of this? Let's say you just flew home from New York City. You have this Surface Book in your bag.
Mhm.
You can, during pre-flight, pull out the clipboard.
Right.
Use your powerful Windows 10 device with your 3-hour battery life. And then when you get up past 10,000 feet, you can pull your keyboard out and redock that.
Yep.
While
Yep.
the MacBook guy is just now pulling out his MacBook for the first
Yeah.
time because he
Yep.
cannot pull out a laptop during pre-flight and takeoff.
My understanding is that 75% of the battery is in the base. Is in
the
the
base.
keyboard,
It is.
the base,
It
and
is.
25% in the clipboard. Yeah.
And that makes sense because they're not marketing this as
Right.
the same thing as like a Surface Pro 4. It's intent. This device's power comes from its base.
Mm-hmm.
And I currently have an inquiry into Microsoft because this has come up. In that somebody asked me, what if you've got the clipboard off, run the battery down, but the base is fully charged? Will the base charge the clipboard? and I have to believe that that is the case. That's how most 2-in-1s have worked in the past. So I can't imagine that Microsoft has not left the ability that the base battery wouldn't also power the screen. That's how it's made. So I just want Microsoft to confirm this, so that the base would provide outside, no power going into the base, but the base has got a battery in it. It got a lot of battery in it, and it would power the screen and also give it a charge.
I would go on
or at least power it, right?
Because the Dell, what was the Dell Venue Pro 10? Had the same thing, had a keyboard base with a battery and a tablet, and you would get both charging indicators in your tray, so you knew exactly where you stood on battery life. Yeah. So I would.
Yeah, I suspect that the
I would feel comfortable in saying
yes. The base charges the screen or runs the screen when the screen has no battery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that's the way they built this thing. They're marketing this as being so you can take that screen, flip it around, fold it over, and have it in your hand like a notebook.
Right. Starts at Intel Core i5. This is an Intel Skylake processor, 128 gigs. Starting price, 8 gigs of RAM, is $14.99.
So the same price as the Pro 4 with an i5 8 gig, $256.
I'll have to verify that.
Yeah, that's right. Because the 4 gig was $8.99 with the Core M. That's the starting for the Pro 4. When you bump it to the i5 and double the RAM, keep the same hard drive, it was $14.99 or $12.99. Yeah. So that's an i5 you said?
That
i5
is
8
i5
gig and 256 storage.
128. She starts at a 128 for 14.
Well, like for me, hard drives don't bother me none because I
I'm
go
not
with the
worried
128.
No, I'm not worried about that.
That's not a bad entry for a device like that, I'd have to say. Because the X360 from HP, which doesn't have that capability, right? It's a hinged device that lays all the way over. It's a convertible. But the starting price for this with 256 gig of storage, 8 gig of RAM, and a Core i5 is $1,200, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you want to step it up, the next step is 256 8 gig Core i5. That's another $200.
So it's another $200 for doubling the storage.
Double the storage.
Because the i5 and the 8 gig are the same, right?
Double the storage. Yeah, it's still 8 gigs of RAM. If you wanted to go now, this guys, I'm sorry, this is the big caveat. There is no external GPU in that keyboard on those two prices.
That's right. You don't get the new extra GPU until you go up.
And so that's the big thing about the Surface Book. And Panos spent a lot of time on showing you how this external GPU, we're talking about a display driving card inside the base of this keyboard, whereas we all know that you can use that as processing power these days. Yep. And he showed a lot of cool things going on. We won't get in depth with it.
3 gigabyte file that he copied was like...
Right. Now, granted, they showed this with Surface Pro 4 last year with the Core i7, manipulating 4K video. But this, having that high-end NVIDIA GPU, is going to make a
world of difference. Yeah.
For a lot of folks.
Yeah. So, but the two you've listed right now, Dave, have not included that GPU.
Correct. $16.99. If you want to step up to the GPU in the keyboard base, it's 256 gig storage. Core i5 still, 8 gigs with the GPUs, $1,900.
So another $300 for that.
$18.99. Yes.
Is that $300 more than the other one?
Yeah, that's $18.99, and that one is $16.99.
So it's $200 difference there for the GPU. But the performance difference between those two is going to be
huge.
I won't. Do you think it'll be that big of a difference with the GPU?
For the folks that are using it for the folks that need it know why they're buying it, and they will buy it without even thinking about the $200 for 1 second.
No, the $200's a drop in the bucket. It's just like upgrading the 8 gig of RAM from 4 gig on the Pro 4.
I mean, if you're doing any kind of video work on this machine, you're definitely going to want to, for the $200, it's just it's a no-brainer.
And you're not just talking about running Adobe and things, but you're talking CAD. You're talking about any intense graphic-based program.
Correct.
So somebody spending $1,900 on a device like that, that's not even a flash in the pants.
Right. And if that's your business too, I mean,
Right.
if you could reduce 20 minutes of rendering time for videos and
Right.
stuff, I mean, $200 is nothing. I really.
Yeah.
In the long run.
And to be honest with you, they're probably going to step up to the next step and get the Core i7, which is going to be $2,099. So
Same amount of RAM?
$2,100.
8 gigs of RAM?
Yeah, so let's just go to the elephant in the room. 512 gigabyte Core i7,
Wow.
16 gigs of RAM, $2,700.
Wow.
Now-
And they have the gall to put quantity under
Limited.
that. How many do you
Quantity?
You can
Y'all
get
take
5
4 of those?
You can get 5 at a time.
I'll take 5 of those? Man.
Now, I heard today that they were almost sold out on those high-end machines.
That's what I heard as well.
Yeah.
I forget who tweeted it or something, but somebody said that it was already showing out of stock. But then I went and looked, and I didn't see the same
Okay.
thing.
I am
so,
able to pre-order every single one of those
Yeah.
right now. So
well, it's putting it in the box, right? In the cart.
right.
I mean, think about it. People who do that type of work, that do CAD, that do
Right.
that heavy, intense graphic stuff, whether it be movies, and a lot of these guys, so you're talking about more than just people who draw. It's like
Right.
you've seen with the Surface Pro 3 and stuff. And they really made a point. Even Apple has made a point with their iPad Pro to show artists using the device. People who do serious graphic design, chop type work, $2,700 is nothing for them to spend on a device that's going to give them that kind of performance, save that much time, and give them those kind of capabilities. I mean, they're really not. They're not going to bat an eye at $2,700. Now, us consumers might.
Right. Right.
$2,700. Oh my goodness! I'll spend $300 more and order a dev kit for HoloLens.
Yeah, no, I dotted my drawers for sure. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
I'm flying to Europe early next year, and we're only spending $2,000 on the airline tickets. Okay.
Yeah. 6th gen Intel Core i5, Core i7, excuse me, it's getting late. Intel HD graphics. So for the non-GPU, it has Intel chipset, which if you're doing day-to-day, you're a laptop guy, that's going to be fine.
Yes,
It'll
absolutely.
do just fine.
That's probably fine. You can do mild gaming on it. You're not going to run, the latest Crysis game and kill it in frames, but it's going to be fine. The GPU, the external graphics processor, has an NVIDIA GeForce GPU. Now, the big mystery out there is what chipset is it, because that makes a difference to at least the gamers in the world and probably a lot of the guys that use this type of thing. Wireless AC comes with 802.11 AC Wi-Fi.
High speed, yeah.
802.11 ABGN compatible. Bluetooth 4 has 2 USB 3.0 ports on it, which fantastic.
Yeah, all the
Full-size
ports on this are in
SD
the
card
base,
reader.
by the way. The
These
clipboard,
are
the
all
screen
in the
does not
base.
have any ports.
These are all in the base.
All in the base.
Full-size SD card reader, which I like. I hope they don't get a lot of flack for that because I love
Oh
that.
yeah, no, my X360 has that, and I love being able to pop the card out of my camera and putting it right in the laptop.
Yes,
to read.
I love
there you
being
go.
able to do full-size SD card
Adapters.
or
Yep.
my little 60
Adapt the micro.
that we've all bought for our Surface in the past. Surface connector, headset jack, mini DisplayPort right there. So you don't have to
Yeah.
buy that dock if you don't want it. But notice I didn't say gigabit Ethernet port. She ain't got it. If you
Yep,
need
just
fast
Wi-Fi.
connectivity, you're definitely going to have to buy. You don't have to buy the external dock. There is I think it's a $30 USB.
Yeah, $30 USB to Cat5
Ethernet.
network Ethernet. Yeah,
Official
Yes.
I have one for
Microsoft.
my Spectre. Works great.
I would definitely recommend if you buy this, buy at least that for traveling. So
Yes.
you have that, and I will probably have to get something like that. Sensors, ambient light, accelerometer, gyroscope, magnetometer. It's a lot of things. What's in the box? Surface Book. Pen. Comes with a pen. Yay.
Yeah.
Power supply.
It comes with a keyboard. Oh, no, sorry.
Hey, you guys
Batteries
gave us,
included.
Batteries
gave us
included.
heck for not including the keyboard with the Surface
Yeah,
Pro
now
4.
a Surface finally includes the keyboard. There you go, everybody.
All right, so the biggest other elephant in the room is this hinge, fellas. We need to talk about the hinge, and then I'm
Dude.
going to have to let you go because we're pushing an hour and a
Yes,
half,
we are.
and
Yep.
my downloaders are going to scream at me. The hinge, is it as odd looking in person as it is on the website?
You have to get used to it. I mean, it's definitely it's a new innovation. Look, kind of reminds you of like, sort of the Timex watch band kind of effect.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get used to it. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I mean, I think it, looks really kind of high tech. I mean, it really does. It works. I mean, it works well. It works well.
I purposely stood in front of the Surface Book last night, and I held the base, and I moved that thing back and forth through its range, and I never felt it give.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? There was always a sense of pressure that if I was to stop, I could stop at any point and it would stay.
Did it have that feel like, I'm picking up my Surface 3 because I don't have a Pro 3 around me to grab, but Pro 3 has that feel, that
Smooth.
very, it's smooth, but
you've
it's
got
also
tension, right?
firm.
You're talking about the tension.
A lot of tension. Did it have that
I
feel
think-
to it?
I would say yes, although I've never extensively used a Pro 3, so I've never used the continuous hinge, but there was something about this hinge, and again, I spent all of maybe 3 minutes with this device, but there was it. I guess I would have to look at it a month after use.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when you're just chesting it out like that, and now you got to think about it. A lot of people pushed and pulled on that thing in the morning. A lot of people pulled and pushed on it last night, so it had a lot of kind of working. But I never felt as if it wasn't going to stay where I asked it to stay. So kind of like the Surface Continuous Hinge, I didn't feel it doesn't click, so there's no clicking. Although that hinge makes it look like there might be clicking, that each little segment is a stop point, it's not. It's a continuous motion. So I would say overall it's probably going to be a very similar experience to the kickstand because I felt it. The tension was there to hold the screen, and you can read, there's somewhere, I think it's the Mashable story, where they talked about striking the balance with the weight,
Yes.
with the clipboard's part and the base and the hinge in order for it to maintain its position wherever it's at.
Because the worst thing about a touch laptop is poking at the screen and having
And the
that
screen
thing
bounces.
flopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello,
And
yoga.
with my Spectre X360, although mine kind of gives and takes, it does not move from its position. So, and that's something I didn't even try with Book. I should have, just to kind of get that sense of how it felt to touch it. Because they expect you to use the pen, right, when you're sitting there.
Mhm.
So, and that thing, you got to flip it.
The other thing, I was talking to the engineers, if the computer is processing something and you hit the button to release the clipboard, it will not allow the clipboard to be released, and it will give you a warning saying that something's processing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then actually there's a little LED light that I think flashes red to let you know that it's processing, and you got to let it finish its.
It needs
process.
to finish up before it can
before you
release.
Yes, yeah.
That is a
interesting.
mechanical process too.
It's really interesting. I forgot what. Rich,
You call it,
remember
it's
something
it's
memory? Something.
No, memory wire.
Memory
Memory
wire.
what it's
wire,
called.
yeah, memory
Yeah.
wire.
And they showed a real quick picture on the screen behind Panos, but I think I know it was memory, and then I
Yes.
believe it was wire. It looked like
Yes.
a looped wire. But that's
Exactly.
part of the mechanism that holds it in place.
Correct.
It's not a mechanical release, so you are not
No.
pushing a mechanical button. You are pushing an electronic button.
That's right.
That brings it home, Friedlander. That
Mhm.
it's going to check with the GPU to see if there are
Correct.
processes
Make sure it's not doing
first,
something.
and it's not going
And
to.
of course, that
allow
all
you-
happens like milliseconds.
Yeah, it's not going to allow you to
Muscle wire. Spit
do
Muscle
something.
wire.
said
Yeah,
muscle
there we
wire.
go.
There you go. I knew it was muscle memory. I had muscle memory in my head, I think, at the time.
That's probably why they did it. And they're
Muscle
also
wire.
feeding in.
Again, an innovation, right? There's something that
Absolutely.
Microsoft needed a solution, and they developed and created the solution to this very thing. And Spitnik just said it uses an electrical charge to hold the screen in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you hit that release button, it does that quick check to make sure there's nothing going on it needs everything for, and then it releases.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool.
Muscle wire.
I mean,
That's
just
awesome.
think about that. They
That's
needed
pretty
it. They invented it.
They needed it. They made it. Yeah, they had to go MacGyver on this hinge. And
Hey, did you
there's
hear they're
gonna be-
remaking MacGyver?
Oh,
I did hear that.
You're tired, aren't you?
Oh man, it's
But
been a
let me
good couple
say-
days though. I got to tell you, Microsoft. Think about it. Do you remember the first Surface RT launch?
I was
Just the
standing in
announcement of
line,
it?
man. I
Huh?
was standing in line.
I know, but what I'm saying is that when they announced Surface RT, compare that to yesterday. You know, it just Microsoft has also learned how to do product announcements.
Yes, they have. Leaps
Tell
and
me
bounds.
how many
Yeah.
times yesterday. Tell me how many times yesterday Panos quoted specs, where he spilled off gigahertz this and gigabytes that.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned some of those things, but
Right.
Microsoft used to spend all their time focused on specs. Specs. Now, he talked about how it performs. He talked about how it does so much better than its comparator.
And the experience of using it too, right?
Yes.
Experience.
And you could, and to me, that is something. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't want to use the word that's in my head, but I'm going to say it. Okay, it was a little Apple-esque in the way they announced these products. It really was, because Apple doesn't. Now they'll go through, but Apple spent a lot of time. Remember, and they just announced their new phones 3 weeks ago. They spent a lot of time talking spec, right? As opposed to the experience. Whereas Panos, the way they've changed over the last 3 or 4 years, is no longer about the specs; it's about the experience.
Absolutely.
And I think that attracts people way more than just a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, and the presentation was, all of them were flawless from a technical standpoint. There were really no snafus or anything.
All right, so from a critical standpoint, was there any element of the keynote yesterday that just wasn't whiz bang flash?
I thought HoloLens was confusing because they always come out and they show you the fun stuff, and then you go back, you write it up, and then weeks later they convince us that this is going to be a business first type product. But I'm seeing gaming.
Showing CAD on the screen is not as cool as shooting little robots climbing out of a wall.
Okay. And if that's what we were seeing live, then my children are not going to play that game very long. It's not fast enough. It's not fluid enough. But it's a first-time demo. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be whiz bang. It's supposed to be whiz bang.
And I'm sure it'll.
No, I thought Band. Although I don't have any doubt that the young lady who presented about Band is the extreme athlete that she said she is. Band was the only element of that announcement yesterday that I just thought was a little flat.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It could have been a little more. But
I'm not sure how you dress that up anymore. The event last night, it was kind of cool to interact with the way they had it set up.
Right.
And the different golf and the bike and the mixer and all that stuff. So
how about the purple fedora? Continue.
Oh, Brian Roper. Do you know he flew to Miami and he presented at a Latin American event this morning?
Yes, I saw that picture.
CNET did a video, kind of a 3-minute video of the event yesterday to kind of summarize it. And they gave fashion points.
They got him at the end.
For his fedora.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So she even said it was. She said, and fashion points to the presenter and his purple fedora or something like that. So, but that's the same guy who presented at WPC in Orlando.
Yeah.
And that crowd was a lot stiffer than the crowd yesterday, even though that was mostly. I know there were some enthusiast MVPs there. There was a lot of tech press, but Brian, my sense watching the live stream was that you guys might have started the roll, but the crowd, I thought a lot of tech press reactions were happening as well.
I couldn't see that because I was up front.
You were up front.
Yeah.
But it's the first event I've ever been to that I've seen that much reaction out of. It really impressive because you heard, and maybe it was all the guys up front that started that, and that's just kind of the way it flowed. But it was still very well done, and it's just impressive to. it blows my socks off when they pull something out of their pocket that we didn't even know about. I mean, we
That was
had the
good.
you know,
Yeah.
and to me that's the cool part. That's what Apple used to be able to do on a regular basis.
Correct.
Absolutely.
They can't. They're not able to anymore.
And it may get to the
they're not,
point where Microsoft might not be able to do that too. So
yeah, it'll
you have
happen.
to.
But Terry Myerson was trolling the tech bloggers in line yesterday morning. He tweeted out the first picture of that toaster and refrigerator thing on Twitter. And then when Panos went to go do a demo on the Surface Book, it was the slide that was set up to be shown.
Yeah.
And he might have been in on the
got
joke.
me here.
Panos even made the joke about the fact that there's a pencil out there without an eraser on it.
That's right. That was funny. That was
all right. So Microsoft is not only innovating and doing all this kind of stuff, they're being froggy about it.
Absolutely.
They're no longer afraid to take a few pokes and have a little fun, which I think is good. I think that's good for morale. That's good for enthusiasm. Look at all this. Casey Limson was around yesterday, and she was giving out Ninja Cat T-Rex codes everywhere for people. Stickers.
Oh, really?
I mean, the whole bit.
I'm her biggest fan on Twitter. That's what I want to do is go talk to her someday when we get.
And you guys have been on campus before for MVP Summit, and you've been going for a few years, and so have I. And for me, anyway, last year was one of the first years that I really noticed the vibe was different on campus.
Yes.
We Windows MVPs had a day and a half of sessions with the Windows team, who were in the midst of building Windows 10. And they spent a day and a half talking to us about things that were coming down the road, and which is now a lot of that is public information. But the vibe on campus was very different. My first year there, man, I was like, dude, this feels like a prison.
Oh God.
It felt like people just hated being there. And then and the big difference is Satya Nadella. I mean, listen to him talk. Listen to the way, and he's been doing a lot of interviews. There's several interviews with. That have come online in the last 2 days, and they're well worth going to read. Even Nilay Patel from The Verge got an interview with Satya Nadella yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So and so the company itself is doing things that is so foreign to what we're used to seeing from Microsoft. I think it's tremendous, and I think that's what's firing everybody up. Is it perfect? No. You can look at the issues with Windows 10, Windows 10 Mobile. Oh, by the way, speaking of mobile, it's not going to be out until December. I don't know if you heard that or not, but it's. But anyway, so is it perfect? No, but I think they're more willing to accept their mistakes and move forward than they ever were in the Sanofsky era or anything like that.
Right.
We
are definitely running long. 1
hour
45.
Wait. So
let's
Dave,
do this
before we go. We
got to
still
talk.
Have we been shopping?
Everything. Every time they do one of these, it costs me money. Now, 3 weeks ago at the Apple event, I registered iPadProGeeks.com, forwarded it to SurfaceGeeks.com, left a nice little welcome message for iPad Pro fans. So I won that day. So this event, I got away with only 2 domains, so I feel very fortunate. I got SurfaceBookGeeks.com.
Whoa.
And then I got SurfaceBookGeek.com. So I got 2. For some reason, GoDaddy was giving me trouble, so I went over to Hover, got my domains. Thank you very much. Okay, what did we buy? Now, if you 2 gentlemen did not have enough time to get your wallets out, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. And
what would we buy?
What would we buy? We already know I'm in for $249, cha-ching,
Microsoft
for the Band version 2. I've got the Band version 2. Come on. Okay.
So did you get the Surface Book 256 Core Intel i5 8 GB?
Now, what would make you think? I'm a Surface geek. What would make you think I would buy the Surface Book?
Surface.
Surface, that's exactly correct.
I toiled and toiled over this decision. Trust me, because I love my Surface Pro.
Right.
And I want a Surface Pro 4. I do. Ever since I've had the Surface Pro 3, and there's an upgrade path that's just out there. You know it's out there. I've wanted the Surface Pro 4. I want the new Surface Pro 4 keyboard. But I also realize there's a certain amount of excitement around a new product launch, and I must experience said excitement.
Mm-hmm.
And I went with the Surface Book.
All right.
Now, the one I pick may surprise you. Would you care to venture at how much money left my wallet? Because my wallet was screaming yesterday. But it's not as bad as you will think. I went with the entry-level Surface Book.
The Core M. No, wait a minute. No, that's an i5.
It's a
i5,
Core i5.
256, 8 gig of RAM.
Which is a step up from Surface Pro 3 for me. Because
yeah, that's an upgrade. Yeah.
I'm in a Core i3 right now. I'm in a 4 gig RAM device. I'm moving up to an 8 gig.
Right.
I don't necessarily feel that I need discrete graphics at this point. It is my hope that I am able to test discrete graphics in what I do. And what I want to do is I'm going to podcast with this machine, guys. So when I get it, we are going to do a podcast. We're going to do it just like I have here. I've got 30 tabs open on 2 monitors, tons of video rolling, and backup recordings, OneNote, all my stuff running. I'm going to do it, and we're going to see if it can keep up. Surface Pro 3 Intel Core i5 that I bought last year did not keep up. I had to return it.
Right.
I opted for.
You returned an i5 and kept an i3?
I did. I returned it because I was trying to force that to be my desktop.
Gotcha.
And it was not ready to do that.
Mm.
It was, the CPU was dialing back, the fan was kicking on at a billion miles per hour. So I have my Core i7 desktop sitting down here, and I'm happy as a lark with my Core i3 Surface Pro 3. And I'm even happier with this Atom Surface 3 device. I love this thing.
I use it all the time. All the time.
I did buy one more thing. I shouldn't have said one more thing.
All right, hold on a minute now. You bought the dock.
I bought the dock.
Yeah.
You
brought the Surface Pro dock.
My thinking is no matter which one I use, Surface Pro 4.
Oh, dude, I just realized you got a Commodore 64 in the background. That's awesome. Sorry. I'm sorry to derail the conversation.
No, and if you're new to this podcast and watching, I always hide something in the background that is new, and I've hidden 3 things right there above this finger, and I've hidden 1 thing right there.
Those look like Game Boys or game. Yeah. The baseball game. There's a baseball game, a football game, and
those are 1970 Mattel handhelds.
Yeah, the handheld games.
Yeah, and
the little red dots.
I'm celebrating the fact that I have a new Nexus phone on the way. Yes, I'm a Nexus guy, but this is the Nexus 1. That's the first one. So
cool.
I always hide something back there for you guys to pick apart, and I've got my MVP awards and my first Windows Home server, because I'm that kind of guy. But I got the dock.
Cool.
200, 1,500 on a Surface Book, 250 on a Band.
That's $2,000.
I'm out a few dollars. I hope to have my Surface Book before we get to Summit. If I don't, I literally will cry. I will cry.
Now,
when do they say it'll be delivered?
Date 26?
Let's go to the email.
Because that's the availability
arrives
date.
By October 26.
Wow.
Then you'll have it for Summit. And you'll have
the last thing I did, and I didn't follow up with my store today, I pinged my store yesterday. They did not have stock.
Right.
They did not know if stock was arriving today, which today recording this is October 7, Wednesday. I assume, this is my assumption, they will have demo units by Saturday.
On the floor, yeah.
Or on the floor for pre-order.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, by the way, Best Buy, Target started pre-orders today.
Very good.
Best Buy and Target. That's something Microsoft hasn't done in the past with these. Is gotten them into the other retail channels immediately.
Yeah, they're going to be able to fulfill these. And it's my hope that with Band as well, if you want a Band, you should be able to get one. It should not be like it was last year.
No, they're not going to. Remember, I got that story last year that they'd only initially produced 30,000, and so the delay happened when they were building more.
Isn't that crazy? 30,000.
It's unreal.
And
Well,
I
they
got
were.
one.
Don't forget, they were just coming off a $900 million write-off
Exactly.
because of
I know.
RT. So
I
they
know.
weren't going to try something new without having a little
They were
toe in
gun
the
shy.
water.
Yeah. Another big event in New York City, October 26th, the opening of the
The
Microsoft Fifth Avenue
on 30.
store.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
saw a
that's
tweet from Larry Herb, Major Nelson today. He got a tour of the store. He said it is a really nice, like 2 or 3 floors.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Really nice facility.
good. Good. So roughly 20 days. Hopefully we'll have those in hand. We'll be able
Very
to
cool.
That's unreal. It wasn't it impressive that most of this stuff was available for immediate pre-order
I like that.
at the announcement as well. That was awesome, and the availability date was just a few weeks.
Yes,
You
I
know,
like that
the phones
they
are
did
November,
that.
but all of the hardware, Pro 4, Surface Book, new type covers, the docks, all available by the end of this month. To me, that was a big deal. They didn't
Yeah.
walk on stage and said, "You'll be able to get it in December." You know, it's more
Right.
immediate.
The next thing they need to do is if they sell out, they still need to take your money.
Take orders, yeah. Take the money.
The
Yeah.
money. Fulfill the
People will still
devices
pay
as
the
soon
money to
as
get
you
on the
can.
list to get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a big month for me. I also have a Nexus P, a 6P on the way because I'm using Project Fi. So I've had some expenditures lately, but I've also been doing Craigslist and eBay to try to fulfill this. So please don't forget to shop at surfacegeeks.net/surface. That will take you straight to the Microsoft Store. I won't make much, but I'll make a few dollars. I can pay for the hosting. That way, those hosting bills I can apply to my new toys. Mr. Richard Hay on my right, Mr. Brian Friedlander on my left. Thank you, gentlemen.
It's a
I'm
pleasure.
sorry I kept you up so late. This is a huge show, and I want you guys, make sure everybody's out there that goes to Richard's show, the Windows
Observe Tech.
podcast. And
We got a
and-
little bit of news related to Observe Tech.
and get out there and listen to that. What is it, Rich? You want to tell me?
Well, I have decided that I'm going to join the Geeks Network and bring my show to the Geeks Network and be part of that collection.
Wow.
So here in the next few weeks, we will get all the logistical details sorted out. If I can get Dave away from, I actually ought to do it before the 26th, before he gets Surface Book.
That's right. You won't see him after that.
Observe Tech's been around for a few years. I ran it, but I was doing it before I retired from the Navy, and it's a popular show, and I'm looking forward to bringing it over to Geeks Network and being part of that.
You bet, and we're happy to have you, and I can't wait, and I will definitely get welcome posts out for you, tweets, and you name it, and we'll mention you on this podcast as well. So the Geeks Network, thegeeksnetwork.com, go out there for
But
more.
you can see it at windowsobserver.com is where the show's hosted at.
windowsobserver.com. You can search for Brian Friedlander MVP. You will find his Surface MVP profile, and he is in the education market and always available to speak with you. I will put these two gentlemen's Twitter handles on these show notes. Go over to surfacegeeks.net. Find this show. This is episode number 96, and you can talk back with us live. Don't forget, Surface Geeks has a set of forums out there. I have brand new categories for Surface Book and Surface Pro 4. They're already listed out there. People are already chatting about these new products, and I would love for you to join out there and chat with us.
Wow. Sounds
I'm your
good.
host, Dave McCabe. Sorry to keep you so long.
All
but this
right.
is true.
A lot of fun.
Good deal. Good
Take
show.
care.
Yeah, guys.
Take care.
All right, YouTubers. I'm gonna hit the big stop button. So this is under 2 hours because we're right under 2 hours.
Wow.
Google usually gets mad at me if I go over 2 hours. Thanks, Rich.
There's a lot to discuss, though. That was a lot of information that came out yesterday.
One of the I would say most fun, more funnest.
Dude, I had a
Podcast
blast
done.
watching that show. I've already pulled up my numbers, my Twitter analytics for yesterday, and hang on a minute. Let me grab something here real quick.
All right, chat room. I'm gonna hit the stop so I can get this under 2 hours for YouTube. That's like my stop. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming out. If you're watching on YouTube, man, subscribe to this channel, Surface Geeks, and head over to the Geeks Network. Tons of cool podcasts and forums. Home Server Show, Home Automation Forums. You get the Windows Observer the Observe Tech podcast, Home Gadget Geeks, Agnostic Tech, and Home Automation. We got a brand new podcast out there on home automation. Go go to the Geeks Network and click all those podcasts. See you later. Good night.
So